Hello, and welcome to The Fool and the Philosopher.
The Philosopher and Fool.
I have been looking for since the episode about roguelikes, which was a year ago? A year and a half ago?
Yeah, about that.
I have been looking for the perfect roguelike. And my specifications, I want a lot of stuff. But I don't want it to be like insane power, Tome has an incredible amount of stuff. It's probably the biggest roguelike there is. But it doesn't play the way I like roguelikes to play. It's all about power advancement. It's more like playing Diablo turn-based. Where I prefer my roguelike to be a bit more like, you get a sword, and that sword's probably good for the rest of the game, but you might, give it a +2 at some point, and you might get this. But it's all about, what does this potion do? Read this scroll. Do this cool trick with this crazy interaction. I want it to be about systems, not about just numbers going up.
Yeah.
So, looking. It's like, okay, try this one, and okay, that's pretty good. And then it's like, Ancient Domains of Mystery, very good, got a ton of stuff, but it's very complicated, and it almost has too many things, but not in the areas I want them to be. It's like, do I care about a bridge building skill? What do I do with that? Or farming?
I find I can't get into Ancient Domains of Mystery.
Yeah, I've actually been playing it again recently, and I've been liking it, because the more you know about the game, the better it is, I think. Because I was playing as a farmer, and I was like, oh, I can do this, and I can spit acid, and I can do that. This is really cool. I was a lizardman farmer, not just a farmer. The farmer class can't spit acid. Yeah.
I was wondering, they usually have some logic behind their designs, but that seems a little far-fetched.
And then it's like, okay, but I want it to be, difficult, so I don't want to play, one of those really easy roguelikes that are just you get the free stuff, and it goes on and on. And so then there's Stone Soup, Dungeon Crawl, which is the perfectly balanced roguelike, but it's too perfectly balanced. There's not much room for crazy shenanigans. There's a bit, but their tagline, and I agree with it, is if you died, it's your fault. I agree. You can totally, basically every situation's survivable, which is really cool. It's a great strength of the game, but it's also kind of not as interesting to me. I like it when just a rock falls on your head and you die, like when you're playing Splunky or something. Although in Splunky, that is your fault as well, I guess, technically. So
it's just in a turn-based game, which roguelikes are.
It encourages you to think too much, I think.
Yeah.
Another game that's like that, Desktop Dungeons. It's a very simple roguelike, and it is very
You sit there for hours thinking about how to win.
Yeah, when I first played the game, I actually had a piece of paper, and I just calculated, my entire game, and then did it. And then,
yeah.
They do have a mechanic to avoid that where you heal whenever you explore, but you definitely can just sit there and calculate stuff. And
you can even turn the exploration into calculation.
Yeah. You're
if I explore this many tiles, there's a chance of these monsters showing up. And
yeah, it's fun, but it's definitely that. And then I also like it. I want it to be kind of lighthearted. So then there's the Guild of Dungeoneering. Very lighthearted, but I'd rather have that on my phone, I think, the Guild of Dungeoneering. I don't feel like sitting down to my computer, getting everything in position just to play the Guild of Dungeoneering, because it's too lighthearted.
Yeah.
So I'd rather have that on my phone, but I already bought it on my computer, and I don't want to buy it again on the phone, because it's $10 either way. It just feels kind of...
that's $10.
I also really like crazy, mutations and stuff. I think those are really cool. They throw your game out of whack or whatever. So there's Caves of Cud, which is the worst roguelike I've played. I don't know why people like it. It's so story focused, and
it's also kind of hideous.
Yeah, it's horrible. It is so bad looking, and
it's like if Dwarf Fortress tried to be more of a roguelike, and then chose a bad color scheme.
Yeah, Dwarf Fortress is fine to look at. I don't mind Dwarf Fortress. Once you play Dwarf Fortress for a little bit, you see everything fine anyways, because you start figuring out what everything means. But Caves of Cud is garish, and the symbols are busy, they're not clean, they're fuzzy and weird, and also you start in the same area every time. You can choose a different area, but there's nothing to look at. The wilderness is boring. It's explore the wilderness in a roguelike, and there's nothing in the wilderness. Ancient Domains of Mystery kind of has that problem, but it has dungeons everywhere that you can go into. And Tome... it's also all about exploring the wilderness with dungeons and stuff. But Tome has a lot of content. Exploring the wilderness is actually very interesting in Tome. It's just that Tome's gameplay doesn't quite gel with me. But Tome, I can totally understand why people consider it their favorite game. Like, it has got so much stuff in it, and it is so, like, polished and worked on, and I can definitely see why people like it. Then there is Cogmind, which is about, like, you destroy other robots, and you pick up their pieces and add them to yourself. And it's it's like
that sounds cool.
Yeah, and it's like a living, breathing world. So it's not like it's a dungeon where you fight stuff. It's like they're doing stuff. Like, if you smash through a wall, little repair bots will drive in from their, like, cupboards and repair the wall while you're fighting, like, the security bots. And then, like, sweeper bots will come by, and, like, it's really cool. And there's, like, digger bots expanding the world and building new tunnels and rooms as you play, and, like, new machines. Tons of cool dynamics. I found it a little complicated, so maybe I just need to give it another shot. And it's kind of fiddly because you can only carry so much stuff, and you're like, oh, I want to have the wheels, but do I want a hover thing? But do I want the pulse cannon? Or I didn't find the combat.
I want it all!
I also don't tend to like ranged combat in roguelikes, and it's very range focused.
Oh yeah, ranged combat can be a pain.
But I'm pretty sure you could just build your robot to not be range focused, but you're kind of handicapping yourself in a way, because there's like rocket launchers and like particle accelerators and all sorts of
like stuff. What was that, the nuclear apocalypse game? Well, all the apocalypses.
Cataclysm Dark Days Ahead.
Yeah.
So that one, tons of mutation, tons of stuff, like it's almost perfect for me, except the interesting stuff is later game.
And it's so over the top.
It's very hard. It's very, 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 but most importantly, it's very, very, very slow.
Yeah.
They had an update recently which really improved that. And I didn't play much of it yet, but it's still pretty slow. Like, because it takes, like, let's say, 60 days to grow your vegetables or whatever, and you play
and
like
2 hours to put on your clothes.
And I think each step in the game is like 1 second.
Oh god.
Of course you can sleep and that'll pass like time, and you can rest and all that, but like it's a game that lasts in-game years when each turn takes a second.
Yeah.
And to do a turn might take you like a minute in real life, depending on what you're doing. Like if you're changing clothes, well, that's the improvement actually. Is they basically made the clothes thing way easier.
Good.
And
so you're not wearing your underwear on the outside of your parka, and then over that you have your socks.
So the biggest improvement they did was whenever you do any action, it looks at your inventory, what is on the ground at your feet, and every tile within like 2 spaces of you. So you don't have to like pick something up, drop it, move it to like cook something, and then pick another thing up. You can now you have the fire 1 space away from you, and food 2 spaces away from you, and a pot underneath you, and you have salt in your inventory. You can cook this. Makes the game way quicker.
Yeah, definitely would. I can see that.
So then there's so that there's just a lot of stuff I want from a roguelike, and I keep looking, I keep playing new ones. Sword of the Stars, The Pit, beautiful graphics. It's actually pretty solid. It's just so I haven't played it recently, but it's pretty solid, and it's a nice like easy to get into sort of game, and it actually has good gun combat, which I appreciate. There's a ton of roguelikes out there.
Yeah.
And I've played a lot of them. But not nearly all of them. Like there's Ivan, which is really cool. Like it has a health system, which I also really like. Or not like a limb system sort of thing. Like so someone can like cut off your arm, and then you're like you only have one arm.
I like it when people's arms get cut off.
I find it really fun in games like scars and injuries and like lasting things. I like that. And in Ivan as well, you can like cut off like a lizard man's leg and then shove it on where your leg's missing, and then you can like...
That sounds a little wrong.
And then like, but if you lose certain body parts, you die instantly, and it's funny, but it is really, really hard. Too hard for me. It's like...
That's most roguelikes for me. Honestly, they're too hard or too slow, and I just lose patience with them.
I guess hard might be like, most roguelikes are hard.
Yeah.
Ivan is maybe too brutal. Like, you, it's like you have, like, imagine in D&D if you had no armor and 6 health. Like, if you get hit twice, you die. Like, if you're unlucky.
Yeah.
Sort of thing. It would be like that.
It's like being a wizard.
Yeah. So, I hear a lot of people say Crawl's their favorite, and that was the first roguelike I played, actually, was Crawl. And it is really good. But I I just kind of moved away from it over time, and then I tried NetHack, but NetHack was way too complicated and went through all these. And then I keep coming back to NetHack, and over time I've come to realize that NetHack has everything I want in it. And it's like it's one of the first I played, like Dungeon Soup was the first, or Crawl. But NetHack was like, the first 3 I played or something. And it has everything I want. It's got the crazy potions, it's got the mutations, it's got the crazy events, it's got the systems, it's got the, like, what happens if I use a mirror on a cockatrice? Oh, it turns to stone, sort of thing. Like, it's got all that sort of craziness. And, yeah, I think there's, like, a lesson in there or something. Like, you keep looking for... You want the new thing when the thing you want is actually already there. So the sort of like spiritual takeaway thing might be, don't keep looking for things. What you want is already there. But I think a different takeaway could be that the joy is actually in looking for the new thing.
I get that sometimes. However, that game, I've tried playing a bit.
NetHack?
Yeah, NetHack.
Yeah.
I was playing the Tourist.
That's like the hardest class.
I died so fast, and then I played again, and my ghost killed me. And it was like, oh, the Tourist is so pathetic. And then I'm walking along, and that ghost Tourist kills me. I'm done with this game.
Ancient Domains of Mystery is becoming unplayable for me, because I went to like this little dungeon to rescue a dog, and like one of my old heroes, like this troll warrior, just came after me and it's like totally destroyed me, and I was like, what do? I can't fight my old hero.
That actually, so what is it called? Noita actually has ghost wizards.
Oh, that's cool. I actually really love bones. They're called bones in I believe in roguelikes, but yeah.
Yeah. So I'm not. So the ghost wizards, I think they carry your strongest wand. They only have a chance of spawning.
Yeah.
Because it's a random seed each time. So it's like, oh, seed, ghost wizard. But so they'll carry like one of your stronger wands that you had, and then they have a force field around them usually.
Right, or they die like instantly in that game.
Yeah, well, no, so the ghost wizards, they have a force field around them usually, because whenever I've encountered them, they're carrying my force field wand, which are like the best ones in the game. And they're so tough. Like, they're way tougher than you. And I feel like they should only have 100 hit points, but I think they have 300 or something.
I think in Ancient Domains of Mystery, they have like identical stats to what they had in life, and identical equipment. Which is really cool, because if you kill them, you get all your equipment, but they're really hard to kill because they're as good as a hero.
Yeah. And the run that they died in was better than what you're currently on.
Have you played a Fic Hack? It's like NetHack, but way easier to play. Way easier to run.
I haven't.
Okay. It's like, I'd recommend it over, because it's basically the same game, slightly more balanced, some of the more ridiculous stuff taken out, which may be good or bad, depending on what you think. But the controls are a lot simpler. Like, they've streamlined it a bit, and like the graphics are a lot better. And yeah,
you see, the thing is, I actually don't like roguelikes. I like roguelites, and we've talked about that before.
You loved Rogue Legacy, which sort of started the whole roguelike. I think it did start the whole roguelite thing.
Hello, you are listening to The Fool and the Philosopher.
It's funny how you were saying how you don't like roguelikes.
Yeah.
Last time I was complaining a lot about Dungeons and Dragons.
Yeah.
And I am not done yet. I have a lot more to complain about. But before I get into that, just to tie it into roguelikes. So, Rogue, like the original Rogue game, it was, like it had potions that, you drink it and like your insides turn to fire and you just die instantly. You have permadeath. Your equipment can suck. It can be unfair. You can just rocks fall on your head and you die. It's dangerous. You never know when you're going to survive. You don't know what anything does.
And once you get the final thing, you have to get back out of the dungeon.
You're horribly lost. Yeah, all that stuff. You know what Rogue was designed to emulate?
D&D?
D&D. So, can you see how far D&D has changed?
Yeah, I guess so.
Like, the permadeath, dying, you're a worthless nobody in this dangerous world where, like, if you read the wrong scroll, you'll die. Like, and now D&D's like, you're a party of 5 gods who are chosen by other gods, and you're going to go fight other gods who are inexplicably only able to deal half your damage before you rest and get full health. So, I think I might have mentioned this before, but like XCOM, like the original XCOM, versus, let's say, Mass Effect. Or Baldur's Gate. Or Planescape Torment. XCOM has a better storytelling, in my opinion. Because the story is not, oh, and then I talked to, what's his name? Irenicus, and he said, oh, so you're awake. Blah, 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 blah. No, the storytelling is, okay, 5% chance, through a window, past 3 of my other guys. It was a sectopod. You know, this gun has no chance of hurting it. Shot it, got a crit, missed its armor, what I've been chipping away with my machine gun, and the explosion have also done a bit of damage. Dropped it in a single shot. That guy had like a firing accuracy of like 3. He's a hero. Amazing. Or go onto YouTube and watch Legionary Chihuahua in Lewis and Ben Save the World. That is the
legend of Legionary Chihuahua.
I was on that mission. I died. Nobody cared that was on that mission and died. It was a slaughter, except Legionary Chihuahua won a mission on his own that like a full team shouldn't have been able to win.
Yeah.
It is the most amazing thing ever. Like, that is a legendary. And that is XCOM. XCOM gives you the ability to create stories. So D&D, I believe, is a collaborative storytelling game. But it's not a thing for 6 authors to sit in a circle and like take turns writing on a paragraph. It's and then my hero, who had a 1% chance to hit the dude, hit him, and then my friend's head exploded. And okay, before I go on, this is to taste. I think I have no idea what you prefer. I know the other dude, Jay, we'll call him.
Mm-hmm.
He prefers storytelling, like the collaborative storytelling over the fighting and stuff. I think he's wrong, and I think if he played a proper game, he might realize he's wrong. But it might just be preference.
Yeah.
But I think he just doesn't know what he's missing. You know, he doesn't get the raw, visceral.
Well,
because there's an emphasis in 5th edition on writing like backstory and stuff a little bit. Not too much, but it's there. Go on.
Oh, 2 things. Backstory was always just a thing that we used to abuse to give yourself a +1 item to start with.
Yeah.
That was me and my friends. But I've slightly changed how I DM, I think, as well. Just because I've found that, like, over the course of this group that I've been running with, they're sort of new players. Like, they've played before, but they're not super familiar with 5th edition on some of them. And so I was basically telling them, like, okay, you guys the only reason you guys should die is it's your fault. Like, there's random chance sometimes, but I don't want to, like, accidentally kill you, basically, as a DM.
Yeah.
Or it's like I miscalculated how strong you guys were, and so you died to this thing. So I always try to, like, design the situation where if it might be too strong, they can escape. And if it is overpoweringly strong, then it probably won't kill them. Like, there's always a solution, basically, is what I try to do.
Yeah. You should be able to...
even if the solution's running away.
Yeah.
There's always a solution.
Yeah.
I'm never going
to cut your... when to fold them.
Yeah. But I was basically... I thought a lot of these people are new players. And so I was basically... I introduced a rule which gives them, like, an extra turn to save lives, basically. And I've, like, done some other things, like trying to keep them alive, mitigating damage. And there's one guy who just keeps on running into situations, well, several people, and they basically, like, charge into a room by themselves and get killed. And I'm like, oh, they're new players. And now I'm thinking, okay, I basically told them all right, I'm not going to do that anymore. Because you're starting to think you're invincible, and that's my bad.
Yeah, and it makes them get bored of the game after a while.
Yeah.
Like, not at first, because there's the power rush, but after a while, you're like, well, none of my actions have any meaning.
Yeah, so basically I've got to is like, okay, so yeah, now everything you do has consequences. There's no longer going to be any Duke Ex Machinas.
Days. Yeah. So, the angry GM, I heard him on a podcast recently.
Yeah.
And he has a solution to that, actually. Someone once bet him, like, I bet you can't run a campaign without killing anyone. He's like, oh yeah, I can, definitely. It's like, well, what'll be the fun? What'll be the consequences? He's like, oh, there'll be consequences. And then he'd do stuff like the mother whose child you sent to save. If you got there too slow or messed up, the child would like be eaten alive in front of her, and it's like he just made them like these visceral, like horrible story consequences. But the players, they're safe. They can do it.
Yeah.
And he's like, you can have consequences that aren't death, which I thought was, it's brutal, but you can do that, yeah.
Yeah, I've actually done consequences that aren't death to players. Like, a guy got his arm torn off.
Yeah.
And another one was someone got a never-healing wound. Like, clerics couldn't even fix it.
Yeah.
And so it's like they permanently have lost like 10 I think it's 6 HP they permanently lost. So I've done things like that, like just these nasty things. Because there is one slight problem in Dungeons and Dragons. I mean, it's a good thing you can fix it, but like getting your arm torn off isn't actually a loss.
Yeah.
It's just very...
It's actually...
Well, it's fixable. It's just expensive.
Or nothing happens, actually, if you think about it. Like I've even heard people say, losing a finger, no stat penalties at all. But it's just, your character's missing a finger, so that's like a, it's interesting, and it is a consequence.
Mm-hmm.
But on the other hand, these are things on a piece of paper. Like, let go.
Yeah.
So I've actually rebalanced my first heroes a little bit. I've now set it up. I haven't tested this fully, but I want players to make 2 characters when they first do character creation. And I want about let's say over one adventure, so 8 encounters roughly, whatever that is.
Yeah.
I want there to be like a chance that like half of one guy will die. So like over 2 adventures, one guy dies basically. I want that to be roughly the balance. If they're playing normally, if they're playing really smart, obviously they shouldn't be dying. If they get really unlucky, maybe like 3 of them die, something like that. But your other character is your backup character. Like I want you to not care about your characters as much, or you can care about them as much as you like, but you have to learn to let go. I think don't make them. Well, even if they are like an amazing book character with tons of background built up and lore, and if you want to do that, go ahead. But Dumbledore dies.
Yeah, I've definitely
Boromir dies.
I've taken the what's his face approach to D&D a bit. Not Wheel of Time. Mal's Book of the Fallen. Sometimes bad stuff happens in the world and people die.
Yeah. And what I've done in my first heroes is you do invest a lot for whatever reason in your character. So what I should
invest a lot.
Yeah. But when they die, you often feel like you've lost a lot of work or something, which is crazy. Okay, wild tangent for a second. Nice Guys. It's like a subreddit full of these people that claim they're nice and then treat women horribly, roughly. Sometimes they treat men horribly, but that's the rough out. They'll be like, I bought you flowers and sent them to your workplace even though you don't know me. Now I expect you to love me and worship me and go on dates with me and marry me and this sort of thing. And a lot of the time when they get rejected, they'll complain they put like several hours of work dressing up, or they put... And the nice girls, there's another subreddit where it's girls. It's the same thing. Like, I put 2 hours into shaving and putting on my makeup and doing this and that. And then you just can't show up because of like a family emergency or whatever. You shouldn't be trading your time if it's not enjoyable.
Your time is meaningless to me.
If playing your character that whole time was only enjoyable for the end result, so when you lose your character, then all that joy is gone and you've invested so much time into a person and you lost that invested time, you shouldn't have lost much or any invested time when your character dies, because you had the fun of playing them that whole time.
Actually, there's also a really nice approach my players have taken. Like, several of them died really early on, and one guy almost died, and he's basically saying, well, my son's going to have to come along and avenge his father.
Yes, so this is what I've added. I have added 2 things. I have added ghosts. So when you die, your ghost actually starts haunting your new character. And
so what? You've Lewis Theron'd everyone? They've got the old character screaming in their head now?
Like, you have to make it to level 5, I think, or maybe level 3 before you can become a ghost. But then after you die, you become a ghost. And your ghost starts haunting the previous character, and it can give them advice and even possess them briefly to, like, become your old character for one turn. And if you get a mental illness, the ghost can also possess your body. And the ghost can grant you their old perks and stuff.
You should also add that if a ghost died with a ton of mental illnesses, you get all those mental illnesses. So it is like the series, like the Dragon Reborn.
Yeah, that could be fun. Yeah, that might be a player choice, but but it also it allows for roleplay potential, I think, because you can sort of have like the ghost possess the person and be like, "Well, let us go into battle, my friends," and it's like a 6-year-old like scrawny spellcaster, and they're like suddenly acting like a barbarian or something, and so I think it's kind of fun. The other thing I've added, which was on this podcast I was listening to about player death in D&D, it's a great idea. I highly recommend it. Is adding a will, and what happens is when your character dies, the DM rules or just tells them at the start of the game or a campaign or whatever. When you die, it's assumed that you wrote a will, and that will can be like a paper thing, or it can be like as you're dying, after the fight's over, the characters can gather around you. They're not allowed to save you or anything, but you can be like, "You must find my son," something like that. And so what the will does is it introduces a new character. It can introduce a plot hook, like, "I always wanted to kill," like you can even, if you had a background that you were invested in, you can give that in your will, like, "My dying wish is that you bring down the Black Hand Corporation," something like that.
Yeah.
So it introduces a new character. "Find my best friend, he will know what to do," and so that's your new character. And thirdly, it says who gets your stuff. So it's like, "My best friend will get all my cool stuff,"
instead of the party vulturing you.
Yeah, or you can make it like, you can have this wand, which I won't have use, my friend won't have use for, and so I think a will is a really good idea to let you sort of let your character not die unfinished in a way, because in life, when people die, their stories don't end because others carry on their legacy, and if that's cut off abruptly, I can see it hurting a lot, even though it's a fictional thing, because there's no resolution. It's like even just like a piece of music being unfinished. Like it hurts just because of... So I think that actually could allow for closure in the crazy animal mind that is humans.
Well, I think I might definitely use that. Like, coming up, there's going to be a tough dungeon, so...
And then the other thing I heard, which is cool, was this one guy, he makes really, really deadly... he makes modules for 5e.
Yeah.
But he makes them way deadlier than normal ones. Because he wants 5e to feel more deadly, like 2nd edition again. Or like 1st edition, which I think was even deadlier. Like, I think 1st edition had a rule, like, don't name your character until they reach level 4 or something. Like...
Don't be invested until you're actually someone.
Yeah, I actually love that idea. Like, I don't think I'll use it, but I like it.
That is so true. I remember playing, I think it was with you and our dad playing D&D, and I had a wizard, and he died, and so I made a new wizard, and he died. I made a new wizard, and he died.
Yeah, that's the thing, though. Like, well, 5th edition actually kind of makes this harder. 2nd edition, it's really easy. You just go, well, okay, here's a new guy, his identical twin brother, because the stats are all the same. But in 5th edition, it's a bit harder because you gain stats over time. But
yeah, it's like the wizards were so pitiful.
Yeah.
They're just
they suck until like 5th level or 6th level, like there.
It's like, I think the one time I played, I was trying to play with some friends 2nd edition, like I was trying to introduce it to them, and one of them had a wizard and he didn't quite understand it, and the wizard only had 6 constitution.
Yeah.
And so he got like, his HP was half a hit dice minus 2. And so when he rolled for he actually had 0 hit points, and so the minimum's 1, and so it's like a level 1 wizard with 1 HP, and whenever he leveled up, he had a very low chance of getting more health.
For people that haven't played 2nd edition, wizards hit dice are D4, not D8 or whatever.
Yeah.
Because I think they're all standardized now, right? Or something? Or
no,
they've all been bumped up a tier, basically?
They've all been bumped up, yeah. So wizards get a D6.
So does Barbarian get like D20
No,
now?
they bumped it up and then middle ground it, so the max is D12 now.
Right.
Instead of the Rangers used to get 2D6.
Right.
Which gave them like the best hit points in the game.
Yeah.
Because for every D6 they applied the Constitution bonus.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so Rangers had the most health.
By a long shot, yeah.
Yeah.
So right, he makes these super deadly things, right?
Yeah.
These 5e things, very deadly. But he also added a mechanic from the Warhammer fantasy role-playing game, which is called a fate point or something. I'm not sure. And I think you get one per session or one per adventure, something like that. Yeah. And you can use it to not die. So you can say, like, no, I didn't die. And then you can be like, well, I almost died there. I better put my affairs in order or something and get ready. Like,
yeah.
So you can sort of choose to, like, no, not that time. I'm not ready yet. But then it's gone. I don't know if that's a good idea or not, because I feel like that's just delaying the inevitable if you do that. But he liked it, so it might work for some people.
There is a slight problem.
I know a good reason for it, actually, if you can hold on to that thought.
Yep.
It's so a goblin getting a critical doesn't kill you. It's like a dragon kills you. So you can have a heroic death, basically.
There is a problem with super hard modules.
Yeah.
In D&D. 5th edition, like you're trying to bring it back to 2nd edition, and basically you have to change the rules if you want to do super hard modules.
Yeah.
Which is fairly easy to do, but if low-level characters beat a monster that's way stronger than them, it gives absurd amounts of experience.
Yeah, I don't remember if it was him or someone else, but they were saying, like, every 10 encounters you level up. So they changed the whole system.
Yeah, that's basically, like, if you're going to do that, basically ignore the XP or something, or change how it's given out, because I remember I had a fight which was, like, I think it was 2 level 3 adventurers, they might have been level 5, but they beat a vampire, and they basically used every advantage possible against a vampire, like wind stakes, sunlight, running water, and garlic. Like, they were prepared, but they still killed him, and it was a tough battle. And so I gave them full experience for killing him. And then I read the numbers, and I realized I had just made them level up twice.
Yeah. But I do think, like, a lot of people say 1st edition has, like, the best XP system. Like, maybe not, like, everyone, because obviously nobody uses it anymore. But you hear a lot of people nostalgic about it. In 1st edition, gold is equal to XP. So whenever you get gold, you get XP. But, so that means if you sneak past everything and get the gold, you still get the XP. It doesn't matter how much you fight. So 1st edition was about not fighting. Because there was no benefit to fighting. You just lose resources, you have a chance to die.
That is really 2 Hearts, 2 Lions.
Yeah, well, it was definitely, or like Fafhrd and the Grey Mouser, or like it was very much about like the adventurers just trying to scrape by and make money. It's not like, this is a mighty quest and the world has come to your need. It's like, you live in this world, but it doesn't care about you.
Speaking...
That
Go
said,
on.
Like your vampire thing?
Yeah.
I think that does have the benefit of you feel super accomplished from beating the vampire.
Yeah.
Although, do you need an extrinsic reward to feel like accomplished for beating a vampire in some ways? Like, maybe you should just feel happy that you killed a vampire anyways. Or maybe the villagers can celebrate you. Like, I don't know. But yeah, just, I don't think D&D is your place to roleplay, basically, is what I'm getting at. If you want to roleplay, play a game with us, not a war game. Because D&D is a war game. You can call it whatever you want. Like, play whatever that game's called.
Nobilis?
Play Nobilis if you want to roleplay. Play Vampire the Masquerade. D&D is a war game. Like, 90% of the rules are about fighting. 90% of the gameplay centers around fighting. All the cool stuff you find is about fighting. Like, a lot of the utility magic items are, like, never think about it again things. It's like the rod of ever-glowing light or something. It's like, now you never have to think about torches again. It's not, like, a cool thing to do with torches. It's not a torch-based game. It just gets rid of torches.
Also, like,
I've
given people items that, like, don't have any combat use. Like, they definitely be used outside combat in, like, role-playing situations or, like, puzzle-solving things or various other things. They don't get used.
Yeah.
They get forgotten about.
Hackmaster has some ones that I like. Like, they have a shovel that lets you dig 10 times as fast as a professional miner. Stuff like that. Like, I could see players using that.
One of the items that someone actually didn't take because they're like, it's just a stupid thing, was this cat statue that you could throw, and wherever it landed, you would switch places with it.
Little reference to Divinity, I guess?
Yeah.
Yeah. That actually seems really useful.
Yeah, they didn't take it, though. They're just like, it's a stupid statue, and they left it. Like, what?
You need to give them some pit traps.
Yeah.
And some, like, grills in front of them, and, like,
I was thinking it'd be great with, like, a grate that you could fit your hand through, because you'd stick your hand through, drop it, and then you'd pick it up again, pull it back through the grate.
Yeah, or like a pit that could take like... I think D&D has a huge problem with time. There's no time mechanic in D&D.
Yeah.
Which is why I'm trying to put that in the baseline of my first heroes. Because...
Yeah. Putting that on the onus of the DM can be...
Yeah, which is why I want first heroes to just tell you how to do it from the ground up. I want it to be like, you failed a lockpicking roll. You can guarantee success it, but it'll take 10 minutes. Do you want to? That's how I want the gameplay to go. And the reason you do that, and then you have a penalty for it taking time. It just doesn't take 10 minutes. It's like, oh yeah, I'll take 10 minutes. Who cares? I want it to be like, every hour you get like attacked or like your food rots or like, like just have a table of like, it could just be random events or it could be interesting, like bag rips, like, or ceiling shakes. Something bad happens basically. Yeah. You want to feel rushed because otherwise you just don't care. And it's like, oh, a pit trap? Well, I climb down one end and climb up the other. No, you want to be like, oh man, we need to get over there quickly. If only we had some sort of cat statue we could toss and teleport to.
You must hurry, the unstoppable armies are coming.
Like, 5th edition, this is very important in game design, but it's also really important in everything. 5th edition got rid of a lot of... And D&D over the years. Actually, 5th edition added some stuff back even, so it's not fair to be... But it got rid of a lot of inconveniences. Like, I don't know if they do ammo tracking. I don't think they do.
They do ammo tracking, but it recommends ignoring that.
Yeah. Encumbrance is optional. So they do all these things where they just, like, take away, like, bookkeeping, inconveniences, all this sort of thing. Yes, I can see why you got rid of it. But be very careful when you get rid of anything. Because there's a reason it's there. The reason that there's ammo is so that your archers don't get to shoot all the time. Because archery is really overpowered. The reason there's food, keeping track of, is so that you have to make hard choices about, can we camp out in this dungeon, or do we have to go back to town and risk, like, the villagers dying or something? We should have been more prepared. Or it's like water and pack animals. That's so getting across the desert is a journey and it's exciting and difficult because, day 6 we ran out of food. Do we raid these people for that food, or do we just try to push on and take damage so the fight will be harder later? It adds interesting choices and decisions. There's a lot of stuff you're like, I'll just get rid of that because it's annoying. But you have to know why you're doing. You have to understand. It's classic. Teachers say it all the time. You have to understand a rule before you break it.
Yeah. Well, my approach to that is players will ask me, "Do you want us to keep track of ammo?" And I say, "Keep track of it if you want to. However, if you don't keep track of it, then every once in a while I'll just make you run out of ammo. Like a critical failure will be you run out of ammo, or when the situation seems right to me, you don't have any more ammo because you haven't restocked."
Yeah.
So I basically tell them if you want to keep track of ammo, go ahead. If you don't, then I'm going to still make you run out of ammo. And it's the same with food in a way. It's like sometimes I'll say, okay, this is going to be a long journey. You guys should get some food or you'll starve. But outside of that, it's keep track of your food, or eventually I'm going to say, you guys have no food. Oh no, what do you do?
Yeah.
So I'll basically jump that on my party. And then encumbrance is basically, keep track of things, keep track of what you think things weight should be, or you'll pick something up and break your back.
I had this idea of doing a Settlers of Catan type encumbrance rules, where you choose a random number at the start of the game on a 20-sided die, 13, and then whenever 13 is rolled, you tell the players don't know what it is, but you're like, oh, that was the number. All right, calculate the weight of all your gear. If it's too high, then you lose 10 hit points or something. And I realized it was a terrible idea, but I thought it was kind of a funny one.
Well, the problem is, so someone's role playing it's they're playing a Warforged, which I have some things to say about those. But one of the Warforged's quirks is he collects everything he comes across, and sometimes it's a little frustrating and inappropriate. I find he's like, "Oh, I'll pick that up. Oh, I'll pick this up." I was like, "That's not necessary. This is just a background scenery thing or something." And so I basically start. When he asks me, how much does this thing weigh? I say 10 pounds.
Oh, sorry, keep going.
So we'll pick up a rock, and I'll say, okay, that weighs 10 pounds. Because I'm just tired of him picking up every single little thing and, declaring how he does it and, the role play for it.
Yeah. And you had something about the Warforged as well?
Yeah. I really don't... I think I'm going to... almost unless someone really wants to do it, I won't let my players play Warforged. Because they're about as far from human as you can get in D&D.
Yeah, no, I saw their design. They're from Eberron, so they're only on a certain planet, I guess. But
Yeah.
I don't like them.
Yeah, they're about as far from human as you can get. Their character traits, a lot of them give them real-world nativity, so they're not actually a part of the world. They have, like, these weird things about them. They don't need to eat or sleep. They can't get poisoned. They're just weird, and they break a bunch of conventions. And also the role-playing of them is quite irritating, because they're, like, these weird, quirky robot men.
Yeah, you don't play... Like, you don't... The Lord of the Rings isn't from Gandalf's perspective.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it's not from Legolas's either.
Mm-hmm.
So I almost wonder if D&D would be better off... Well, I think it was designed this way to be mostly humans, right?
Well, that's why humans could be every class and other classes had limitations. That was, like, part of the original design.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Like, I was thinking about that, and I was thinking, it's probably good to limit other classes, just to limit other races, just to force people to be human, basically. Unless they really... But if they really, really want to be an elf, you can be an elf. But you're going to have to accept that you can't be a paladin or something.
Yeah, well, that actually, like, kind of... This sounds a little, I don't know what, a little bigoted, but when I first DM'd 3.5 and someone wanted to be a Dragonborn Paladin, it actually made me feel a little ill.
I don't like the Dragonborn in general, actually.
Yeah.
I find that wrong.
Yeah. Well, I don't like Dragonborn in general as well. But then they wanted to be like a Dragonborn Paladin, and I was just like, no, only humans are Paladins. Like, Paladins are really good. And so you have to... And... No, just let me finish. And humans, in second edition, they don't get any bonuses. Like, all other races get, like, some sort of bonus or special trait to them.
Literally speciesist.
Yeah, I know. And so I was like, yeah. No, I sort of recognize that, but it's like, I really didn't like the thought of a paladin being a Dragonborn at that time.
So that's definitely one of those things where you're like, well, that's obvious. Why is it in the game? Just get rid of it. But it's there for a reason.
Yeah.
And it's there because, it makes it makes humans more common, and humans should be the default because you don't want a weird world full of, like...
Furries.
No, like, well, kind of, but like Lord of the Rings, again, just to go to that example.
Yeah.
They meet elves in a village, but it's mostly like Gondor, Rohan, the Men of Bree, the Southrons, the Haradrim, like it's men.
Yeah.
And if you don't want that world, that's fine. But be careful when you deviate from it. Like maybe you could have a world where
Sorry, that's...
okay. I'll just be quick.
Yeah.
Maybe you could have a world where like everyone's gnomes except for and so paladins can only be gnomes. But like, I think like choose your world, I guess. Yeah. Anyways.
If choosing a world, even the background world for D&D, which is Forgotten Realms, and there's like a few others that you can use, but almost all of them have the same like characteristic traits and backgrounds for their other races. Like elven moral code, like high elves, is so different from humans. It's actually like it's hard to properly play a high elf. Like if you're trying to like, I want to play like a high elf based on what they are. As a human, the morals is so different, it's actually a difficult thing to do. Same with wood elves. Like, dwarves are okay and halflings are okay. Like, you can sort of manage those. But all of the elves are really, really hard to do if you're following the background of D&D.
And warlocks.
Yeah.
Because I was playing a 5th edition High Elf Warlock, and it's probably on me. Like, I don't think I did a very good job. But I was kind of bored. I was like... Or I wasn't bored so much as, like I was okay with it, but I thought other players might be bored of me because... I couldn't do anything based on being a high elf, being a warlock, and then also I chose a flaw, which maybe I shouldn't have, which was I don't take initiative.
Yeah.
Which was... I don't know what to do in that situation because I tend to dominate things, and so I was like, I'll take a flaw that I can't, but then nobody did anything, so...
Yeah.
Maybe I just need to take control.
Or even a solution to that is you could... let's have your flaw like you roll a dice when you want to take initiative.
Yeah.
And if it's below a certain amount, then you can't.
Yeah, I guess you could do that.
And so that could actually like be a crucial moment where you know the solution and then you roll the dice and that's your character's flaw.
Your head just explodes.
Actually, I really like that thought. Like basically it's like, I know how to save our party. Yep, I'm just going to sit back and let them figure out themselves.
Yeah, you're allowed to make one statement before you roll. Okay, guys, listen up. Never mind.
Yeah. Like, if you were to play that character again, that's how I'd want you to do it.
Yeah. And them being a high elf as well, like, high elves don't care about anything.
Yeah, exactly.
And D&D is a motivation-based game.
Yeah. Well, high elves don't care about anything except for their own family prestige.
Yeah. And then warlocks actually are really weird. Like, they have all sorts of stipulations and rules, and they have to obey their god or their whatever they've sworn their power to.
Yeah.
And warlocks are weird. And then I was a hermit, so I it's like, okay, so you're a high elf, so you are devoted to family. You're a hermit, you don't have a family. And also you're sworn to an eldritch being whose will is unknowable. All right.
You're literally a cardboard box.
I'm going to write a list of 6 possible every action, and then I will roll and I will do whatever. I'll just guess because I have no idea what my god wants from me.
Yeah.
I'll just roll a die, and that'll be what I think he wants.
Yeah, or it's like almost sometimes like I've had an outburst against one of my players, which is you're a dwarf. Like, be more honorable. That was literally an outburst I had. Because it's like, I basically told my players, like, okay, the background for this world is Forgotten Realms, so do some research on what you're going to play. And it's just like, you're a freaking dwarf, have some honor, like, have a backbone.
I think, I wonder if this is the issue, is that, having, like, the dishonorable dwarf, that's kind of cool, that's interesting. Yeah. Like Yan he's from Forgotten Realms, right? And he's a dwarf. The turnip guy. Like, he's a dishonorable dwarf.
Yeah. You are listening to The Fool and the Philosopher.
It's fun and interesting to have stuff that breaks the mold.
Yeah, but...
But every single campaign, with every single group of players breaks the mold.
Yeah.
And they try to, and I think the YouTube is not helping this. There's people, they talk about their wackiest story, or how I got one over on the DM, or how I got one over on my players, or this crazy thing, or this crazy thing. And what you've done is your world has no consistency. There's nothing to deviate from. It's just a mess. It's like if you ever play, if you're a NetHack player, a lot of people already consider NetHack to be a mess compared to the more elegant games like Rogue or Crawl or something, because it has everything, including literally a kitchen sink.
Yeah.
But if you play something like Slex, which adds whatever the person could think of at the moment, and it is madness what she added. Like feminists and like the list goes on.
Does it?
There's an insane amount of stuff. There's like 50 races. There's like the dumbest items. There's like, I just can't think of anything off the top of my head. There's like leashes. You can, like, if you play as a feminist, okay, it's a class.
Yeah.
You get a leather leash, and anything you leash with it becomes your, like, servant, basically, because they have to obey you. And okay, so this is just the game, and the author herself says she's not taking any political stance. She just thought the stuff was funny. So
let me backtrack and cover my ass.
Yeah. I don't want to break your rule of not talking about books or. Okay, it's talking about feminism politics because it's more an ideology, right? And I guess our ideologies aren't inherently political, but they can be. No.
We've talked about policy so much. Honestly, not talking about politics is just not talking about current events of politics. Maybe
you more don't want to talk about, like, stuff that would send people into frenzies. Yeah. But really, can you do that? Like D&D, we're going to get all the priests after us. And then talking about feminism, we're going to get either the anti-feminists or the pro-feminists against us.
I'm fine almost even with, like, radical frothers at the mouths. What I want to avoid is fanatics.
Right, yeah. I don't think feminists tend to be fanatics or anti-feminists. Yeah. They tend to be maybe, like, loud and annoying, either side, potentially.
Yeah, I basically want to...
Not dangerous.
Yeah, that my whole thing is more based on, I want to avoid, like, fanatics.
Right, so feminism, right? Mm-hmm. It's an egalitarian movement, but it's, so is the claim, like, ostensibly.
Yeah.
But it's called feminism, not egalitarianism. This is not an original observation. But I think your movement is flawed if it's about egalitarianism, and you haven't put that in the title because it is inherently feminine as a religion. So, you know what? Sure, I'll go with it. It is an inherently feminine religion, which is totally fine. I think you can have a movement for the feminine or for females or whatever. But I don't think you should claim it's for equality. I think...
Name it what it is.
Like, feminism should be a celebration of females, maybe. Like, I think that would be a much better way to define it. And as a part of that celebration, maybe you want them to have equal rights to men. But I don't think feminism is for men, except to the extent that women loving themselves helps men. Because we're all on this earth together.
Yeah.
And so I think that's good. And I think you could say, like, a man is a feminist because he loves the feminine and he loves women. And sure. But calling it egalitarian baseline, I don't think it is. I think it's a lot more complicated than that. And so you can state that egalitarian principles arise from a feminist foundation. But I don't think it is inherently egalitarian. And this is, I think, giving feminism a fairly fair run, because I find a lot of people who identify as feminists tend not to be that... Okay, that's an amazing way to, like, dismiss people, isn't it? To say, people who think this way are not as reasonable and accepting as I am, who am accepting of all beliefs, except for people that think this way, and I don't... So that is very dismissive of me. Because it's kind of like anything, right? Like, you get a lot of hatred for, like, MRAs or something, or incels or whatever. They're not inherently evil organizations or wrong or anything like that. Like, incel is just, I can't get a girl, like, or a boy or whatever. You know, it's just like, oh, man, this sucks. And you can make that a healthy thing. Like, all right, well, here's what you got to do. You got to do. It's actually kind of like pickup artistry isn't inherently bad. That's just advice on how to date. It's like, be respectful, be clean. Like, you know, that is being a pickup artist if you say those things, basically.
Be respectful and wash your hair.
Yeah. Like, you don't have a girl, just... Okay, let me tell you, as someone who has been on far more dates than they have ever planned. Just...
You've been at more dates than they've ever planned.
Just be oblivious, and for some... You won't know you've been on dates, but they'll happen. So you don't really gain from it, but if you want to go on dates, it's pretty easy, apparently. You just...
I think you have a very unique case, and you've caused more hatred towards yourself than anything else you've ever talked about before.
Hatred from the people that I went on the dates with, or hatred from people listening to me?
Hatred from people listening to you.
Look, it's easy. Women just throw themselves at you, right? All you have to do
is be an idiot.
It's just be an absolute idiot, and you'll get more women than you can shake a stick at.
Have no self-awareness whatsoever.
Yeah. And, like, the only time you ever ask them out, though, they are going to turn you down. But every other time. No, the only time you ask them out on purpose, sorry.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I can... And MRA, men's rights. Okay, you want men's rights. I think that's another thing, that it's an egalitarian movement, but it is focused on getting men's rights up to par. So you could say that feminism is egalitarian, focused on getting women's rights up to par, I suppose. Yeah. But I think in both cases, well, feminism should be called women's rights then, almost. It's, I guess, naming, you know, sometimes you're just stuck with a name.
Yeah.
But maybe neither should really, I don't know. I don't know where I feel about those, actually. And you don't, you know, whatever works for you. I don't think you should pursue someone for a label. I also don't think, like I said in, was it the last episode or two ago? Like, I don't think you should have...
Labels, that was the last one.
Yeah, or, well, you can have labels, but they're useful, but they're good shortcuts.
Yeah, but don't live by them.
But don't define yourself by your label.
Yeah.
Like you can say, oh, I play video games, and someone's like, oh, you're a gamer? Yeah, sure, I guess. But don't be like, well, gamers all drink Mountain Dew, so I'm going to drink...
This is The Fool and the Philosopher. The music is by Vindsvept and Adrian von Ziegler. Yeah. You get the problem that Undertale caused with people looking for secrets in video games. is Undertale had all this fun bonus stuff that was there because the guy probably was just wanted to put it there as like these fun Easter eggs, but then he sort of caused this huge trend of putting these things into video games, and you want every true ending, and you want to just like scour it forever.
But he also makes fun of you for scouring it and stuff like that. There is stuff in there for that.
Yeah,
but
so
have people never played games before? Like the praise. Maybe I'm off base here, but the praise for Undertale seems to be based around the fact that it has good writing and mentions that it's a video game. Like it breaks the fourth wall. There's a lot of stuff that does that. Is that revolutionary?
They executed it well.
Yeah, but like Stanley Parable, I think does it. Ooh, really, really good.
Yeah.
And is a fourth wall break really that interesting?
I think it's overdone. I think if it's done right, it can be interesting. Like, Stanley Parable honestly breaks the fourth wall in one of the best ways ever.
Yeah. It kind of encourages you to... Well, I think Undertale's the same. It encourages you. Yeah. It encourages you to break the game, but it calls you out for doing so.
Yeah, well, I think it's almost what Yahtzee has talked about in like video games. Like he suggests it sometimes. The guy who does zero punctuation. It's like, we're breaking the fourth wall. Yuck, yuck. Wink at the player casually.
Yeah, maybe. Okay.
Whereas like video games like Stanley Parable is, we just broke the fourth wall because it's funny for this moment.
Yeah, or you can't excuse bad writing by breaking the fourth wall. Like you said in My Friend Pedro, they said, oh, every level is a sewer level. Sewer levels always suck, and then they have like a bad sewer level or something, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's a fourth wall break to excuse bad writing or bad design. Mm-hmm. And I think maybe that's the issue, not so much doing it well. I did not enjoy Undertale. Like, I'm glad people like it, and it seems like the guy's a great composer. He's a great writer. He's probably a good game designer because people like his game. Mm-hmm. I didn't enjoy it. Another game like that, which is much less well known, is a fighting game made by a Chinese guy, and it's actually like a really solid fighting game. It's not so that's kind of like a background to a really solid game, but it's there, which I think is really cool.
Yeah.
Do you know the game I'm talking about?
You've talked about it before, but I can't remember.
Yeah.
He spent 20 years working on it or something?
Yeah, he spent like forever on it. I don't like the new starters.
No.
This is for...
Sword and Shield.
Sword and Shield, yeah, you mentioned. Okay.
Yeah.
Because I like to have these episodes be timeless.
Like, the tree monkey is the only good one at the final evolution, and it's okay.
I don't know if Pokemon can do anything at this point.
No.
Because its fans... And I think Pokemon made a lot of bad decisions here. I think they have a lot to what's it called? They did not make the right choice. They were lazy in the game. They gave it to an inexperienced team, a new team, and they didn't reuse. Like they just reused models, even though they said they weren't going to. So they've lied. They've been lazy. It's poorly optimized. It's there's a lot to blame them for. However, they did a lot of stuff, like they shortened the game, like they halved the length of the game compared to a normal Pokemon game. They made it so you can avoid battles whenever you want, basically. They made it so you can't catch Pokemon that are much higher level than you. Now, you need like badges to catch Pokemon. They made it so that when you get experience, all your Pokemon in your party get that experience. So you basically have XP share on all the time. So all your party stays equal level.
Yeah.
I actually think a lot of those ideas are really good. For me. Because I don't like Pokemon. Like, I love Pokemon as a concept. But the game drags on way too long.
Definitely.
So I think this is actually really great for me.
Yeah.
Obviously a lot of... But the Pokemon fans... Well, some of them. I'm a Pokemon fan. Don't like it at all. They don't want the XP share. They don't want the they want it to be like old Pokemon. And fair enough. But they also want the tired old formula to be shaken up, and like there's no point in making a new game if you're not going to change it from the old game. You can just replay the old game, really.
Yeah.
Which Total Biscuit said once, and I did not agree with him at all. I was like, no, you can just improve upon the old game. And so now I've just spoken against what I used to believe, which is obviously becoming a curmudgeon. And I do think there is something to be said for just a new game that's just the old game but better. But cutting half the Pokemon doesn't do that. And maybe Pokemon players just want to keep playing the same game, but better every time.
Yeah. Well, apparently, Pokemon, was it Pearl? Was it? Or Crystal? Yeah.
Crystal,
Pokemon...
yeah, they thought that was going to be their last. And so
no, that was meant to be the last one.
Yeah. And so they put a ton of work into it, and it has, like, double the regions, besides Silver also has double the regions, I think. But all that. Yeah. I think what Pokemon, and I don't know how they can do, because it is a lot of, like, they've got, like, 900 Pokemon now or something. Like, it is way too much work to keep making games. It's crazy.
I feel like almost they should take the Final Fantasy way out of Pokemon.
And just do spin-offs.
Spin-offs, but also Final Fantasy changed how its fighting worked.
Right, they made it real time now, right?
They made it a mix of real time and JRPG, where your spells, your big spells that you cast are still JRPG, where you have like mana, you have to wait for them to charge up and stuff, and like get your limit breaker ready. But then there's real time action going on outside of that.
Yeah, I think like they were super lazy in the animations actually on the new game as well.
Yeah.
So what I think Pokemon needs to do, which like I can actually cutting half the Pokemon, I can actually understand. I can be like, yeah, okay, fair enough. Like there's way too many for you to work with.
Yeah.
But then they didn't take advantage of that. Like they got rid of like Jigglypuff and Bulbasaur and like they got rid of some of the most Incineroar. They got rid of some Greninja, like some of the most popular Pokemon out there.
Yeah.
I think Greninja is the most popular Japanese Pokemon or something. Like your key audience's favorite Pokemon isn't in the game.
Mm-hmm.
Something like that's crazy. So I think what they could do, let's say they didn't make Sword and Shield. Like we go back. What they should have done, if I was in charge of Nintendo, right? Or it's not even made by Nintendo actually. So, anyways, if I was in charge of Game Freak, new game, don't add any new Pokemon,
and trim off the fat,
and cut out the bottom 10% least popular Pokemon, something like that.
Yeah.
And then, or even cut them in half if you need to, but do it by popularity or at least by like viability. Like, oh, this guy's way too weak to be in the meta. This guy's way too strong. Like, get rid of those maybe. Although people might be sad if they lose like Blaziken and Charizard and that sort of thing. But at least you have some sense to it rather than seemingly just like random number generator cutting them out.
Yeah.
And then work with what you've got and make the game more interesting. Like, don't make the start of the game take longer every generation, and don't make,
well,
like the whole Breath of the Wild sort of like open world thing was a great idea.
The Breath of the Wild really broke the boundaries of what Legend of Zelda was.
Like
even its combat it's close to Legend of Zelda, but it's also very different. It lets you do way more.
What was it? A YouTube comment said Breath of the Wild totally reinvented Zelda and made it like way better and amazing. And it also made it truer to the original game than it has been in ages, because the original game was about exploration.
Yeah.
Exploration. I can't pronounce words right now. And Mario Odyssey completely reinvented the game. Like it went back to, well, it's like 64, but more so. With a lot more. Bigger world, flashier, everything's fancier. And it brought it closer to the original. It's about good movement and tight, quick decision making. And like cool secrets. And so they brought it closer to form while completely reinventing it. And then Pokemon, the same old thing but worse.
Yeah.
They had a chance to make it, I don't know, like you could make it like a Skyrim game almost, or like a tag team fighter.
Well,
or
like the one thing I think a lot of people have almost always wanted with Pokemon is like it to feel like the anime.
Yeah, and Pokemon Stadium's pretty close to that, I think. Actually.
Yeah, Pokemon Stadium has a bit of that. What's that other game called? The new Pokemon Stadium, where you're actually it's a punch 'em up basically between Pokemon.
Yeah, Pokemon Tekken or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or it's like you could even have like a thing that Pokemon does, the anime is, so Pokemon have their 4 power moves that they can use. Like they keep track of this in the animes. Like they have 4 powerful moves. But then you can yell at your Pokemon, dodge it, take the full brunt of that attack. Like you can give them commands like, oh, this Pokemon has wings, like fly up high. It doesn't know the move fly, but it can still fly up high and get an advantage.
There's actually a Pokemon spin-up game where your Pokemon, how much it loves you, because, you know, Pokemon have love towards you in all the games. There's a chance it won't faint when it reaches 0 HP based on how much it loves you.
It'll keep on fighting?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a great idea.
Yeah.
And there's a game like that. which I don't know which one it is, but I love that. That's cool.
Yeah, or just even the idea of, like, people have always sort of just wanted, like, have a little more, or, like, being able to, like, add, like, terrain to Pokemon, like, more than, oh, it's a grassy field, like, a little bit of terrain that your things can, like, hide behind a tree or something.
Yeah, what if... They kind of did that, actually, in the latest game. But they could have done it a lot more so.
Yeah.
Like, there's now, like, Gyarados swimming in the lakes, and you can go up to them and fight them. Or there's Pokemon walking through grass, and you can actually see them. So they did do that. But I think they could have done that much more so. And they could have made it like, Breath of the Wild. Like, you're actually exploring this big world, and your Pokemon help you explore. And maybe fights are just like tag team battles, kind of like Pokemon Tekken, but maybe a bit less fight game, more strategic thinky, so a bit slower, like the Final Fantasy, like you said.
Yeah.
And, that sounds expensive and really large and everything. Yeah, yikes.
But it's Pokemon.
Pokemon is the most profitable game in existence.
Yeah.
If
Pokemon,
Breath of the Wild could do it...
What are they called? What are the big games called? Are they Triple X? Yeah, AAA. Yeah, Pokemon is like a quadruple A.
Triple X is different. Yeah.
Pokemon's like should be quadruple A.
Yeah, it's the best. It's like the most money making game out there.
Yeah.
The most profitable game in existence. Like it can afford that. Like Breath of the Wild. Like Legend of Zelda is really popular.
Mm-hmm.
But not as much as Pokemon. Or Super Mario Odyssey, that's a massive world.
Yeah.
Skyrim, like Bethesda's basically an indie developer, like a huge one.
Yeah.
But they kind of, and Ubisoft as well, they're indie developer. Mm-hmm. And they make Assassin's Creed, and like the latest Assassin's Creed is massive.
Yeah.
Actually, Ubisoft might have been acquired, I don't remember. But, these guys can do it, and they're called AAA games because they have so much money. But Game Freak should have all the money.
Yeah.
Why are they... What? And then they give it to a secondary team so they can work on their own game, which is weird and not that great looking. And it's mostly dialogue and it's just all story and no gameplay. And Pokemon suffers from... I do think they improved on the slowness, because I think Pokemon really suffers from slowness.
Yeah.
And pacing and yeah.
Pokemon's a game you play while sitting in a car while doing a driving trip.
Yeah, except that's like the ideal, but then there's still like 20 hours left. And
yeah.
And it's fine. I will play a really long game.
Yeah.
Like, I will play a game that lasts for... Like, a single game of Dominions can last for like 40 to 60 hours.
Yeah.
If you play the way I do. And I'm fine with that. But it has to be interesting the whole time. And the random encounters in Tallgrass are a huge part of the problem.
Yeah.
Wanting to use Pokemon you like... So you have to level them up and grind them up. That's a real pain. And so I think they fixed a lot of that, actually.
Oh no, I'm walking along and I've encountered a level 5 Pidgey. Charizard, use Blast Burn.
Okay, there's a little bit of experience.
Yeah.
Next.
Dear God, just get out of my way.
Pokemon could also do with, like... It has some really in-depth mechanics that are not anywhere in the game. Like, you have to hack the game to find out about them. Like, Pokerus, but also IVs and EVs. Like... Okay, do you know every Pokemon, I think it's the Ivy. I'm not like that into this, or I don't know that much about this. But IVs are like sort of intrinsic base stats that never change, but they influence how good your Pokemon stats are overall.
What?
And they get them like the moment they're created, and they can never change. So if you have like a Rattata with like with the IVs at, I don't know the numbers or anything. I'm just gonna make them up, like 15. Yeah. And then you have one at 20. That one with 20 is going to have better stats overall once they're level 100.
Yeah.
Like, it's just this base stat. And then there's Eevee, which is, like, the environmental variable or whatever it's called.
Mm-hmm.
Which is, if you fight a lot of Rattatas or Pidgeys to level up, you will gain more speed when you level up.
Yeah.
If you fight a lot of Geodudes, you will gain more defense.
Right.
And that's why Rare Candy is bad to use, because you don't gain any of that benefit when you level up.
Yeah.
That is not anywhere accessible in the game. Like, and maybe if they made that, like, Pokemon could be a very in-depth game, but it's just kind of a really exciting visually, not that fun in practice JRPG.
Yeah. And the latest ones...
And the visuals are getting worse.
Yeah, and the latest one, like, I was watching, like, all the super moves of the new legendaries.
Did you see Exerdius or whatever it is, where he just wobbles around like the deer?
Yeah, well, one of the sword Pokemons, it like swing. It's like, oh, use Sacred Blade, and there's a little pish effect. Like
I saw a guy. he did the math.
Yeah.
Right? He was like, okay, there's 400 Pokemon. And there is, like, each Pokemon can learn something like 40 moves or something.
Yeah.
And so that's like 100 or like whatever it is, like 16,000 possible variations for moves that you'd have to animate.
Yeah.
And he's like, and the average like animator costs this much per year in Japan. It was like 10 million yen or whatever.
Yeah.
So it costs this much per year in Japan. So you can see how the numbers would suggest that, and then Game Freak can easily afford that.
Yeah.
It's like not even close, because he demonstrated like you can do about an animation per hour.
Yeah.
And you give each developer like a Pokemon, and it takes them like 2 weeks of Pokemon.
Yeah.
Or less, like, to give them all a unique animation for every single move. And that's like crazy. You don't need to do that, but you could.
And that would make it like one of the best Pokemon games of all time.
And they're AAA, so they can afford to do it.
Yeah.
And another thing they could do is stop going down this weird 3D road and just go back to the 2D, because the 2D, I think, had a bit more personality. Almost. Yeah. Although maybe that's just my old man. I did really like Pokemon Go's look, actually. I do like it.
You have been listening to The Fool and the Philosopher. Don't go away, we'll be right back.
So, yeah. But I've heard this complaint a lot, more and more recently, about late stage capitalism and how it leads to stagnation and how you get companies just squeezing people for every bit of money they can get. Like the latest NBA game is just a loot box with the old game in it.
But you have to pay extra money to play the old game.
It's like the exact same game, but with like gambling on top of it, of the previous year. And you get like the Star Wars Battlefront 2 mess, and you get, well, this Pokemon mess.
Yeah.
The developers aren't making these games out of love, they're making it for money. Imagine if authors did that. They would be like Piers Anthony or something. Like, and I don't even blame Piers Anthony. He's kind of trapped in like...
Help! I'm an author, hell!
It's like his own private hell he's fallen into because he's good at puns.
He's not even good at them anymore. He gets suggestions.
Yeah, well...
And he feels like he has to do them.
But it caused it.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's all about the money, not about the... And you see that a lot on YouTube. People won't swear, and they won't say edgier things, and they'll because they're afraid of YouTube demonetizing them.
Yeah.
So it's all... So this idea of like less genuineness, more about the money, more about like more and more cruel practices to extract every last penny from people. Everything's become stagnant and corporatized. Music is just like the least offensive, most banal, like do. Like it's all the same chords. All pop music is the same. All country music is the same. That you know, late stage capitalism problems, right?
Yeah.
Now tell me, if you looked at an evergreen forest and all the trees were dying, would you say that something's wrong with the forest and needs to change?
No, that's just the late stage of evergreen.
That's succession.
Yeah.
Because new poplars will grow, deciduous trees.
Yeah, once the evergreens are done and they fall down, then a huge amount of poplars will pop in there.
Or whatever else kind of deciduous tree in whatever area you live in might be.
Yeah.
These things go through cycles. And I think what is going to happen is we're in a rough patch now because we are at like the horrible, like stagnant...
Giant dead trees everywhere.
But once people start standing up for themselves and stop giving Paradox money...
Stop. Once people stop giving Paradox money...
and stop using Google, and stop... These companies will have to change. And then we will have a more informed populace, and we will have the genuine people. Like Undertale. That was one guy, did all the work, and people loved it. They absolutely loved it because he put his heart and soul into a game.
Yeah.
And that is great. And that is the argument against this. That these people are like what we like. And companies, you know, they're trying to fake genuineness now. Like that, we're getting to that point where they're starting to try to fake genuineness. Look at A&W ads. Yeah. That guy better make millions a year because he does a good job at it too.
Yeah, he definitely does.
But companies are trying to like fake genuineness. And if they become good enough at it that it's real fake genuineness, then that's good. Because if fake genuineness gets you the money, it should. Because if you actually pretend that you care about your people by listening to everything they say and taking into consideration and doing what is best for the consumer, then I don't care if you're faking it for money, if you're doing it from the bottom of your heart. The result's the same for me.
Yeah.
And if that's the way to make money, then it's great. And if you have to pretend to be a good person to get by in life, then that shows that the system's working well.
Yeah.
Because that means that good people get ahead.
Wasn't it in Ender's Game, his older brother is like, I pretended...
Yeah, he pretended to be a great leader, and so he was a great...
Yeah, he pretended to be a great leader and a good person.
Yeah,
for so long. He became one.
Yeah, or, well, he didn't become one. He was a psychopath right to the end.
Yeah.
But he said, if you spend your whole life pretending to be a good person, then aren't you just a good person?
Yeah.
Like, if you never slip up, then you're kind of just a good person.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think late-stage capitalism is a self-solving problem. What were you typing about? What were you looking up?
I was looking up if Xanth had stopped, basically.
Sorry?
I was looking up if Piers Anthony had stopped writing. So he has 4 forthcoming books.
Wow. All Xanth?
Yep.
Wow. Poor guy. Poor soul.
Yeah, and he's written a book every single year.
Yeah. I think
sometimes he's written more than one book in a year.
I think I read he can get a book from, like, not written at all to written and published in, like, 4 months or something.
Yeah. Actually, to start with, his books had gaps in between them. It was like 1977, 1979, then he did another 1979. Then it was 1982, and then another 1982. And then after that is one every single year.
Yeah. And then he just, yeah. He just got the algorithm tweaked enough that it could print out Xanth books.
Honestly.
Yeah, it's kind of...
I mean, at least he doesn't write about the same character every single time. Like,
yeah.
He has new characters almost every book now.
I don't know if that's good. Because like, Bink and Chameleon and, like the first 3 books were actually a trilogy.
Bink, Bink, Door, Door.
I think it was Bink, 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 Door,
nope.
Door.
It was Bink, Bink, Door, Door, Smash Ogre.
Okay. But it's like, you know, they were actually like a cohesive story. Yeah. And then A Cruel Lie, I think, is a really good one because he takes a character that's different from all the others and makes him the hero. He's a classic hero, more like, well, kind of like Bink was, actually.
Yeah.
He kind of steps back and has him come again, and he has the power to heal from any wound, so he's not just some pun wizard either.
Mm-hmm.
Except he gets his head smashed open, and, like, the person that's with him tries to save him, so she scoops his brain back into his skull, and, like, it heals, but she got some dirt in there, so then he starts thinking dirty thoughts on...
Dear God.
But A Cruel Lie is I like that. I actually like a lot of his books, even though they're kind of formulaic and silly and cheesecakey, whatever it's called. Yeah.
I'm going to send you a link to a video.
Okay.
It's a short video.
Okay.
And I want your thoughts on it, because I found it really cool.
Right. And then I can end on the depressing philosophy for the day.
Yeah.
Alright, here we go. The Evolution of YouTube.
Yeah.
June 2005. Wasn't it a dating site at one point?
Yep, very beginning. But people quickly adapted it for making videos because you could put videos of yourself on your profile. And it was the best video hosting site out there.
Okay, 2006. This is when I started watching it. Not much, though. 2007, that was like the golden year. That was when all the cool stuff happened.
Yeah. But midway through the video, the broadcast yourself TM disappears.
Oh, yeah?
Yep.
See, 2008, still there. This is really well done.
Yeah.
How do you do this, actually?
Also, there's
animations?
Yeah, I guess so.
Impressive. I actually found YouTube really hard to navigate back in, like, 2007. But it did have, like, the best videos. 2011. Hey, it's Simon and Lewis.
Yeah, that was one thing I noticed. They got the top... It was the top animation.
They were one of the top channels, actually, around then.
Yeah.
In 2012, they were like the top 20 or something.
Mm-hmm.
And in total, I think they were the biggest if you include their entire network.
Yeah.
How far they've fallen.
They had their heyday.
Alright, 2013. This was when I started watching Total Biscuit, basically. Well, yeah, 2011, I guess, actually. Yeah. This is later. Wow, did it look like that? Jeez. Okay, this is the one I recognize, I guess. Oh no, this is what it's been. Yeah, that's why. Yeah, I guess I really started watching videos 2011, where there was just Total Biscuit and Duncan from the Yogscast. That was like all I watched. Weirdly. Huh. Cool. So, our parents are divorced, as you know.
Yeah.
And when your parents are divorced, I find that everything becomes politicized or polarized, or I don't know what the word is, but it's you as a child become a commodity where it's a tug of war for your presence and your time.
Yeah.
And most children don't actually do that much with their parents. Like maybe once every couple months they'll like have a father-son moment or whatever. Let's go for a camping trip or let's go. But it becomes like I want to see you, I want to see you, I want to see you, I want to see you. And you don't feel like they love you. You feel like they just want to get the most points in the I have spent the most time with my child category. And like they love us, obviously, but you feel like a commodity, I find.
Yeah.
And it's like you feel like you're caught in a tug of war. And I thought, that it stops at some point, but I was reading about online this person with like their parents live in different places, and for Christmas they're like, okay, we have to go drive out to this person's place and then fly out to this person's place, otherwise they'll say we went to Christmas with this parent and this parent, and
yeah,
and it just doesn't end until they die, and then you're hoping for their death, and then that's not, but you're not, because you love them and they love you, and divorce is a mess.
Yeah.
It's just, but apparently it's better than staying together if the relationship isn't working, so if it's this bad, imagine how bad it is to stay together.
Well, then you're living a lie, and eventually the lie gets destroyed.
Well, you're living hell, and then you hate everyone, and you hate your children.
Yeah.
Because if you're doing it for your children, you hate your children.
Yeah.
And, like, relationship has to come first. And and it's not good for your children, because then they don't know what a family looks like. They just see people living in cold, like, angry silence.
They see people living in a Cold War.
Like, that's what our dad had happen to him.
Mm-hmm.
Like, his parents stayed together just because they didn't want to divorce while they had the children at home. And he wanted to leave home as quickly as he could because he just did not like the experience.
Yeah.
So, yeah, and, like, he has to do, like, the double Christmas stuff now, but it probably feels better to him than... Yeah. But he doesn't get that option. He doesn't get that experience of a healthy relationship in some ways. Like, he by now, I imagine he has, but...
Yeah.
Like, when you're young and you just see your parents hating each other, you're like, oh, this is a relationship, I guess.
Yeah, this is marriage. Like, you marry someone you hate and you live with them for the rest of your life.
Yeah, but if you divorce, at least you can be with someone you love, and then your kids can see that. But, yeah, you just get pulled apart, and it just doesn't feel like they care about you yourself. Like, when I see my friends, they're not spending time with their parents. They're doing their own thing.
Yeah.
I feel like I spend a ridiculous amount of time with sometimes.
Yeah.
And yeah.
We'll end it there.
Yeah.
Bye.